Hi everyone, I'm Janet Henderson and I'm with the Beloved Public Library, and I just want to welcome you to Cake Break, which is a new series that we've just started in conjunction with a new collection to our library. We have added over 100 cake pans. I'm a manager here at the library. I've been here for 13 years. And I'm excited that I get the opportunity to blend one of my passions, which is cake decorating, with my other passion, which is the library. So welcome, and I will explain some things as I go along. As I said, we have a new cake pan collection, and the cake that I am decorating today is the Mermaid. And you saw that Carly had decorated this cake as well. And so we're taking two different approaches to meet everybody's needs. I do want to say that the cake pan collection that we have is actually was donated to us. It's bequeathed to us by a woman in our community. Her name is Ann Graves. And when she passed away, she wanted something special to be done with her cake pans, and so she donated it to the library. And if any of you have any pans or know of somebody who would like to donate pans, please let us know. So let's get started. As I said, we're doing this Mermaid cake. And I have started part of it to save time, and I will be explaining some things along the way that as far as cake decorating techniques and ideas and suggestions. And so I do want to say that when it comes to cake decorating, I've found that some of my best friends in cake decorating aren't actually the cake decorating supplies themselves, but some everyday supplies. For instance, I cannot live without toothpicks. They are very important to pull off mistakes or to adjust mistakes or to just fix things. And also, I would be lost if I did not have paper towels and napkins to clean up my mistakes. But also I'm going to show you a trick that with the paper towels as far as smoothing icing. I remember I took a cake decorating class once, and I swore that what I learned with this little technique was worth the whole price of the class. You will see here that I've already, as I said, I've already started part of this cake, and I've iced the border, and if you can tell, it looks really smooth. And one of the reason is because of my paper towels. And these paper towels are great for smoothing and making a real nice finish. It gives it almost a fondant finish, but it's a lot more edible and tastier. I have my container of blue icing here, and I've already loaded the decorating bags with icing. I've already colored them so that, again, to save a little bit of time. Crumb coating, for instance, if you are doing a cake and you're really busy with a lot of other projects going, you can bake the cake and you can crumb coat it, and it will actually stay fresh for several days. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm adding the water, as it were, and in a minute I'm going to come back and I will show you how we do how we smooth it. One of the things you can do is I use a certain kind of very smooth paper towel, so if you find that you like doing this, you will see when you're at the grocery store that you're going to start examining paper towels now that we can get them again. and see, you know, look at the finishes on them. So I'm gonna let this kind of sit here for a few moments, and then I'm going to come back with the paper towel and smooth it, because you have to kind of get the feel of it, and because if you put it on too soon, your paper towel will stick to the icing, and we may see that. Or if you wait too long, then it kind of just creases the icing. So you kind of have to get the right time, and as you're decorating, you learn it. It's just kind of a matter of figuring it out. Okay, I have waited maybe 1 minute, 2 minutes, and again, it depends on the consistency of your icing, and it also depends on things like the humidity and you know what side of the bed you got up on that morning. It just is. You just have to, you know, kind of eyeball it and figure it out. So what I have here is just a little square of the paper towels that I like to use, and my family knows not to mess with these paper towels. They're my cake decorating paper towels. But as I said, it's Viva right now, but there are other brands out there that, you know, may work just as well for you. But they don't have any pattern on them, and they're smooth, and that's why I use them if I want the smooth finish. So I just cut it into it, because if I have too big a piece of paper towel, it gets in the way, and it kind of messes up the icing. So I just cut little squares. And so what you do is you put it down, and you do some smoothing, just very lightly with your finger, a firm touch, but not pressing too hard. It's just kind of like, I don't know, petting a cat or something, you know, just real gentle and smooth. And I'm going to finish this area. But you can see how it really is, how it really just kind of gives it a nice smooth finish, and to me it's quicker than doing the spatula. And again, it depends on the effect. If I wanted waves in this ocean, then I wouldn't be doing that. I would just be, you know, using my spatula and kind of creating little peaks in the waves. But for now, I'm going to have something in this area, so I don't want to do that. So now you can see how smooth it is. Okay, our next step is to actually start with decorating the mermaid. And what I'm going to do is I am going to do some outlining, so you can see how you actually do some outlining on a figure, and then I will switch off some tips, and then we will actually start filling in her tail and body. So I have a round tip here, and the round tip is what you would use for outlining, and it takes a little bit of practice, but it's, you know, not that hard, and I want y'all to be to not get discouraged, because it takes some practice like anything else, and a lot of times it's good to just practice on a piece of wax paper, and to do that for a while until you feel comfortable. So what we're going to do now first, though, is I'm going to outline the mermaid's tail. So what I'm going to do is I'll start here at the at the base of her tail, and I will start squeezing. Now, one thing to remember is whenever you're decorating, there are a lot of important parts to the actual decorating itself. There are some different components. One is that your icing, you want your icing to be a good consistency. If you're going to be doing something like outlining, you don't want really, really stiff icing because it will break more and you will have more trouble even squeezing it out of your bag. So you want it to be kind of a medium to a somewhat thin consistency. And then you also want to have the right angle, not right angle like 90-degree angle, but actually it's more like a 45-degree angle. And so whenever you start, you will touch your tip to the surface and start squeezing. You can see I touched the tip to the surface. And then you can see now I have lifted my tip so that it is above, just slightly above. I don't know how much that is, maybe 1/8 or 1/16 of an inch. And I'm going to come to a stopping place here. And you can see that this line is rounded. Some people, when they're starting out, will think that if you're going to do a line, it's not like when you have a pencil or a pen and you're on, you're in constant contact with the surface. You want to lift it up because it gives it a more rounded look. If you don't and you just drag it along, I'll show you what that looks like right quick. But if you drag it along, first of all, it's not as smooth looking. And also your pulse with your hands and everything, it kind of, you can feel it on the cake itself and it makes it uneven. So now for my handy dandy toothpick to remove some of this. So I'm going to do this with the other side. And then we'll start filling in with some decorations. Okay, we've gotten the outline done here, but I'm still going to go on the inside because just to give it a little more dimension, I'm going to put in some of the lines like you would maybe see fins, so you can imagine seeing fins on her tail. And some of you may have more artistic ability than I do on this kind of thing, and I will make a disclaimer that portraiture isn't my thing usually on these cakes, but since they're just little mermaid cakes, they're very forgiving. So now I'm going to change tips. I'm finished for now with the outlining, and I'm going to take this tip off. This is a number 3. It's a very standard writing and outlining tip, so you may already be familiar with this, but if not, you'll find that it's a very common tip that you would use pretty frequently. And now I'm going to put on a star tip. And what I am doing here is I've got a lot of star tips that are here that, you heard me refer to that one as a number 3. And so the round tips go from like 1S all the way up to about 12 or so. And then they move into star tips, and those start with about number 13. And that's a tiny, tiny star tip. I'm not going to use that at this moment, but I'm going to go on up the line to a number 17. And I will be filling in her tail with a 17 star tip. The star tip is a super common, and it's a favorite. It's just a real standard that you will use in cake decorating. And it's fun to use. You can do a lot of different things with it. But right now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just I'm just going to start squeezing out some stars. Okay. All I'm doing is I am touching the tip of my the star tube just slightly above the surface, and I'm squeezing lightly. And if in this area you can see it's tighter, and so I don't use as much pressure because I don't want to, you know, I don't want to everything to overpower the outlining. It's not. It's just makes things look a little bit better. And so I'm squeezing, and the way you do this is you start squeezing, you stop squeezing, and you pull up. Because if you keep pulling it up, it'll make something more like a Hershey's Kiss or something. You know, it'll be too, it won't be, it'll be too elongated for what you need. Okay, so I've switched to the number 16 tip, and we'll see if it makes a noticeable difference. Maybe it'll be cleaner, and you know, you'll see like, I like 16 better, or I like 17 better. So it's just another judgment call. So you can see her tail that's finished here, and you can actually see the difference. This, you know, this one looks, you know, fluffier, but this one looks kind of more even, maybe. So that's something you can, you know, play around with, see what you like. Now I've switched tips. I finished with her tail. That's a star tip, and I'm switching to what's commonly referred to as a rose tip. And right now I have a small rose tip on because this is a tighter area. But what I'm going to do is I will use this to create kind of a ruffle. So when we use this rose tip for the scales, we're trying to create kind of a ruffle effect. And so I'm going to use this to make it look make it look more like scales. And when you do this, you basically you involve your hand, your whole hand in kind of going, you know, up and down and back and forth on this. And in a moment, I'm going to change tips because now that I'm getting further up, then I can use the larger tip and the ruffles become bigger. As you can see, I'm about out of icing. So I need to reload my bag, and I thought I would show you a little bit of how that is done and to try to keep it from being not so messy. You generally, when you're filling a bag with icing, you pull it down, you make a collar so that this does not get covered in icing as well. And I'm going to take my spatula and get a good amount on there, and then I try to push it down as far as I can, and then I hold on to my spatula so it doesn't keep coming out and make things messier. I've got it pretty well filled up. Now I'm going to just squeeze the icing down into the bag, further down toward the bottom. And if you look, you may not be able to see this, but when you're filling a bag, it's like, oh, there's an air bubble. And that can mean trouble if you're in the middle of a intricate decoration and it just poofs on you, and then it messes up your decoration. So I try usually to start squeezing it until it's kind of like burping a baby. You wait until you hear that sound of the air bubble going out. Whenever you're holding your bag, like if you wanted to have a twisty on here, you would put it here, twist tie of some kind. But if not, you can grip it between your thumb and your forefinger, and just, you know, hang on to it, because if you don't, the icing works its way up the bag and onto your wrist. Okay, so I basically have finished with the Mermaid's scales, and now I'm going to move on to the bodice. And all this is just what it says. It's just going to be up and down, back and forth, to just create a zigzag pattern. Now I'm going to leave that like that, because we're going to be coming back and now filling in the mermaid's, outlining her arms and putting a face on her. We will give her an identity. Okay, so now we are ready to start with the actual arms and the face of this mermaid. And I'm going to start by outlining. Also for this icing, I don't have as much control over this particular brown icing that I'm using at the moment, and that's okay. It's actually just canned icing, because sometimes the color is better, it's what you want, so that's what I decided to go with on this part. Now that I've done the basic outlining for her arms and her face, I'm going to switch colors for her skin. And this color is I mixed some different colors, kind of playing around to get the shade I wanted. But I have a copper cake decorating dye, food coloring. So I started off with copper, but that's kind of orangey, and so then I kept adding brown until I got the color I wanted for this, because I wanted it more of a realistic skin tone. The copper looked too orange. If you've ever seen the little copper tone commercials with the little girl, you know, in the advertising copper tone, well, kind of like that, only more orange. So I toned it down some. So I'm going to start filling in her skin. Okay, and so basically I'm just going to give her, you know, try to give her some eyes and her eyebrows and a smile. We have her arms and her face. Now we're going to add some hair, because she kind of looks funny right now. So I'm going back to this chocolate icing that I have, and I'm just going to give her lots of long flowing locks that are going to cascade down using a number 18 tip. It's time to add some final touches to our mermaid cake, and I'm going to add a little bit of seaweed here, and I'm using a leaf tip, but it's a number 352, which is kind of a go-to for people call it the no-fail leaf tip, because sometimes the leaf tip's kind of, the the leaves break off with the icing, but this one is not supposed to. So we're going to put some seaweed here around the mermaid. And this green is a different green. I didn't want to use leaf green since it's seaweed, and I wanted to try to get something that looked a little more a deeper green. And so this one is a whole mixture of a willow green and a little bit of brown and a forest green. So I guess seaweed's kind of an underground forest. So anyway. Our last and finishing touch will be to put a border at the base of the cake. Now all I'm going to do on this one is it's called a basic shell border, and I'm using another star tip for this one, one of the larger ones that I've used today. It's a number 20, and so I will show you how that is done. And to make the shell border, it's one of these where you get the right motion going, the movement, because some people feel intimidated by doing the shell border, but really it isn't that difficult once you practice and you get the movement. So you touch your tip and you're at about a 45-degree angle, and you start squeezing, and you leave your tip there where you are, and you just squeeze and let it fan out and then pull. That one looked a little weak, but they'll get better. So you touch, squeeze, let it kind of build up, and then pull it out into a tail and decrease your pressure. So you squeeze, pull it out, release your pressure, stop your pressure, and it just goes out into a tail. We're all done, and there you have the mermaid, and she is swimming in the sea with her fish, her coordinated fish. So thank you for watching. I appreciate it.